I'm joined today with October's Sky Bet League 2 Player of the Month and PFA Fans Player of the Month. It is, of course, Chesterfield striker Will Grigg, who has scored 6 goals across the month of October to claim both awards.
Yeah, thank you for doing this. Thank you for taking the time.
No problem at all. Thanks for having me.
Being named League 2 Player of the Month for October, how does that feel?
Yeah, it's a great feeling. Obviously, it's nice to sort of get a bit of recognition. It's nice, obviously, to start the season off really well and score some goals. But I think if you ask any player, I think the personal accolades are obviously great. But and without sounding cliche, it's all about the team. And if I could swap that award for a few more 3 points, then I certainly would do that. But it's one of those things. It's sort of bittersweet. It's nice to know that you're contributing to the team, but at the end of the day, I'd rather be winning a few more games.
But in that month, there were plenty of wins as well. Specifically, Newport. That was a big one away from home. Team similar league position to us. How was that game? Obviously, 3-0 probably quite a flattering scoreline.
It was, yeah. I think it's a really tough place to go, and I think obviously the conditions on the night, it was windy, it was wet, and I thought Newport applied themselves really well. It was a tough occasion for ourselves. We started the game really well. I think we scored within the first sort of couple of minutes. Obviously, Dylan Marcandy scored a good goal from just gambling, and then after that, I thought we were relatively comfortable without playing, the football we can. I think, like I said, the conditions played a part with that, and then, we made a few, I think 3 changes around 65 minutes that essentially went on and helped us win the game. But I think we've got such quality in the squad. We had a few fixtures in quick succession, so it just shows how important the squad is. But like you said, a massive win away from home, and it's been a bit of a strange one because I think at home when teams are in low blocks, it's been difficult to break them down. But away from home, when teams sort of have to come out of you and a bit of the pressure's on them to obviously please their fans and to bring a bit of attacking football, that's when our flair players and our attacking players can find the space. And I think to score 2 goals in the last sort of 15 minutes was a nice touch. But like you said, probably didn't reflect how tough the game was.
And 6 goals for yourself altogether in October, 2 against Bromley, Notts County, 2 against Newport, and then Colchester as well. Did any of those stand out to you particularly?
I think probably my first one at Bromley was nice because it was my first start back in a team. I had a little ankle injury, and then to come back and get that first one was nice. Notts County, obviously live on Sky, and that was to put us 2-1 up, and I generally thought that was going to win us the game. So, I think none of my goals are going to really stand out in terms of 20-yard curlers into the top corner, but I think maybe just the timing of them, and then obviously Colchester as well. I think to get us back in the game. Again, not exactly a glamorous goal, but I think the timing of it, we genuinely thought we were going to go on and win the game, and unfortunately that wasn't to be. But yeah, I'm not sure I could pick one of those 6 as a goal of the season contender, but they were all sort of important in their own ways.
The 2 against Newport, they were basically carbon copies of each other, weren't they? Is it both Banks assists as well? So is that something that's worked on?
Yeah, I think if you watch probably, I think I'm close to 180 goals. I think if you watch 150, that'll be pretty similar in terms of, I find myself in the 6-yard box. I've sort of made a career in being in the right place at the right time, and I think a player with Ollie Banks' quality, the day that I moved to the club, I think from our first week in training, we just seemed to click. We just had a relationship. He's got so much quality, but I think he just understands me as a player and where I'm going to be at certain times. So, yeah, I think he's made that a great little golden zone run, you call it, in terms of just being in that little area in the box that creates great chances. And like I said, he's just wrapped them both across the box, and it's my job to be there. I think Paul Cook as well, he thrives on crosses in the box, and it's my job to be there. If that flashes across the box, then that's my responsibility. So I think they were both sort of relatively simple finishes, but it's about being in the right place at the right time, and that's something I seem to have managed to do throughout my career.
And on this season as a whole, How do you feel it's gone so far compared to like the expectations before the season started?
Yeah, it's been difficult. I think from the outset, there's been a massive amount of pressure. I think obviously what Wrexham and Stockport have done, obviously being promoted from the National League and then going again straight away to League Two and into League One, it's put a little bit of pressure on us, and people were almost expecting us to do the same. But that's really difficult. It's probably not going to be the case. We understand we're our own club. We felt we've recruited well. The infrastructure behind the scenes and the owners have really put a lot of time and effort into to make sure the club's ready. But if that takes us an extra year or two to bounce back up, then so be it. We probably have had a little bit of a disappointing start. I think at times we've been really impressive, but that consistency just hasn't quite been there. And I think you get that with the young group. We've got a real mixture of some experience in the team, but then some real young players as well that are going to take a little bit of time to adjust. Um, so like I said about the home and away form has been really contrasting. I think our away form has been excellent, but our home form has been tough, just simply because we have gained quite a lot of respect from the teams in the league. So you'll find a lot of teams coming to us in a low block, and it's been difficult to break that down. So I think as a group of players and the staff, we've tried to put a massive emphasis on getting clean sheets, because we feel like we've got quality to score goals in the team. So we just need a few more clean sheets to try and solidify us and make sure we don't need to score 2 or 3 goals to win a game. So I guess on the whole, it has been a little bit disappointing. But we're more than confident we've got enough to try and push ourselves towards those playoff places.
And how far do you feel the club can go under that the current owners, coaching staff? You've got Paul Cook, Gary Roberts, Danny Webb, and the players as well. Like it all seems to be going in the right direction.
It certainly does, yeah. It's difficult to put a ceiling on it, because if I speak about the owners first, they've been unbelievable. I think they saved the club when it was in a really tough time, and then their investments just gone through the roof. I think everything around the stadium, the training ground, hopefully the match day experience for the fans has really sort of improved drastically, and that's full credit to them and everyone at the club. And I think when you've got a manager of the calibre of Paul Cook, it speaks for itself. He was a massive part of myself signing for the club, and I think some of those marquee signings that you talk about that have joined the club probably wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the manager. So I think from that point of view, behind the scenes and the manager, there's no reason why the club can't push on and see where it takes us. And like you said about the group of players as well, I think we recruited really well in the summer. We've got some real quality in the squad, and some really good lads as well. I think the dressing room's massive, and the sort of personalities we've got in the dressing room and the type of player is massive. Paul Cook's always been good about that, about having the right people around the club, and he's certainly managed to do that at the moment. So the short-term goal is to obviously get out of this league, and if that takes us a year or 2 years, then so be it, because there's some really top sides in the league with big budgets and big expectation as well. But in terms of the club, it's hard to look too far in the future, but I think with everything that's happening at the moment, the owners, the manager, the players, it's a really exciting time to be a Chesterfield fan.
And you touched on it there, but just how big of an influence was working with Paul Cook again on your decision to join? As you said, he's a good character. He's loved around the club.
Yeah, it's massive. I think for me to drop down to the National League, it had to be something that I was fully bought into. It wasn't really anything that I considered at all throughout my career. So I think on the first drive up to Chesterfield to speak to the manager, I've probably said it already. There was probably 10% chance of me signing for the club, but then by the time I left, it was something I really wanted to be part of, and that was massively down to the manager. I think the relationship we have on and off the pitch is massive as well. He understands me as a player. You think back to the positive times throughout your career, and a massive part of that was with him at Wigan. So that was definitely a big part of that, but also off the pitch as well. We get on really well, and he understands me. So I was at a point in my career where I just wanted to enjoy my football again. I wanted to have get back to winning ways, get back to scoring goals, and I think my decision was justified by that promotion in the first year. It was a massive risk and massive gamble for myself and my career, but one that was fully justified, and I'm really pleased I did.
you touched on Wigan as well. There's plenty of people who were with you at Wigan at the time. Do you feel that helped the team do so well last season and also kick on this season as well? Like having that group that's already knows each other.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it always helps when you've got a relationship off the pitch, but also an understanding on the pitch. Like myself and Michael Jacobs have played together for a few years now, and obviously having that connection on the pitch and being in similar positions, and understanding of when I'm going to make a run, or the timing of the pass and the timing of when to make the run, it definitely helps. You talk about building relationships on the pitch, and the quicker they come, the easier it is. So to already have that sort of connection is massive. We speak about Wigan again. It's one of those things. The manager doesn't sign players unless he thinks they can improve the group. Yeah, it's important to have experience and winners in the dressing room, and there's a few players that have definitely got that.
The last season as well. How was the experience of winning the league in your first season at the club? Obviously, kind of everyone in the team made themselves a bit of a hero at the club in that season alone.
Yeah, it was amazing. Looking back, it was a really really enjoyable and successful season. It's a really really difficult league to get out of. There's some quality in that league. I think over the years it's probably got a bit of a disrespectful name tag or reputation, but quality has gone through the roof. I think you see the amount of players dropping down the league to be part of it is massive. And it was a tough year, to be honest. Like I said, there's some good teams, some good quality in the league. So for us to win it and win it how we did was amazing. But that was full credit to the group of players. We had to keep digging in week in week out, and it wasn't the case of having 11 players that were starring week in week out. It was the case of having an amazing squad that we could chop and change when we needed to. So as a group, it was a great experience, and to see the way the town celebrated after was really special and makes it all worth it. And I think that was my 6th promotion, but they've all been from League One apart from that one, but that one was probably the most special just because I could really take it in. I think before I've sort of been so focused on the football and not really been able to take it in, but now I'm getting a little bit older. Unfortunately, it was nice to actually take a step back and appreciate what was actually happening. And yeah, like I said, to see the town and the way it's celebrated and how much everyone appreciated it was a great feeling.
Was there a particular game last season where you and some of the other lads thought, where it really sunk in almost, that this is the year that it's going to happen, we're going to go up?
Yeah, I think so. I think there was a little period where we had quite a few games in hand, and we had a few Tuesday games. And the one that stands out the most, we went to Barnet away, and Barnet were obviously second at the time. And I think if we won it, it made our gap over double figures. And we went there and won 2-0, and it was a really really dominant performance. It could have been 4-5-0, and no disrespect to Barnet at all because they were excellent, had a great season. But I think we were definitely the better side, and on that night, and just the 2-0 victory. I remember getting in that dressing room and everyone sort of looking at each other and thinking, this is ours to lose. This is the time. So yeah, that was probably the one game that stands out. But yeah, I think it's really tough because Paul Cook's he's always had a mentality as the next game is most important, and I think as cliche and as boring as it is, that's genuinely been drummed into myself and a lot of the players. And every game's worth 3 points. So I think that one stands out, but the rest was sort of just trying to knock them off, trying to bat them off as much as possible and get onto that next game, and we managed to do that.
How was that night after the Boreham Wood game? Obviously, we saw some of the players on Twitter celebrating. How was it for yourself?
Yeah, it was. If you asked me on Sunday morning, not great because I felt absolutely horrendous. I remember doing a Sky interview at about 10 a.m. on the Sunday morning. I could just about speak, to be honest. My voice had gone. I was a little bit wobbly, so that was interesting. But no, the celebrations were excellent. You work so hard for 10, 11 months just aiming for one thing, and it's tough. It takes a lot out of you mentally, physically. So to be able to celebrate as a group of players and staff, and also with the town as well. I think we went out into Chesterfield full tracksuits, and it was a really special night. It's not often you get to celebrate like that. So I think just to see everyone come together and celebrate the way we do, although it probably took me 3 or 4 days to recover from that. It was really, really special.
So you weren't with King, Mandeville, and Berry celebrating the next day again?
Yeah, I'm not. You shouldn't always believe what you read. To be honest, I think Kingy probably had about 2 beers. Bez had about 2 beers over the weekend. Mandy's a trooper, to be fair, so I'll give him his credit. But yeah, we did do 2 days. To be fair, we did the Saturday night and then all day Sunday and Sunday night as well. But yeah, it's sometimes there's a reason why the boys are still tweeting at 5 o'clock in the morning. It's probably because they've had a little bit too much water. To be fair, so yeah, there's definitely a group of players that know how to party hard.
And then looking back at your time at Wigan, winning 2 league titles, and then the famous FA Cup game against City, Pep Guardiola's City as well, who would probably already had the Premier League wrapped up by that point. What's your fondest memory from that point of your career?
Yeah, so obviously Wigan, was definitely my most successful time. 2 promotions, and like you said, the Man City game definitely stands out. I think they were still going for the quadruple at that point. So yeah, I think that is probably one of the highlights in my career, not just my Wigan time. It was yeah, I think we'd put so much work into it, and I think the gaffer had sort of set up a game plan. We were planning on sort of letting them have the ball for 20 minutes, and then between that 20-minute and 30-minute period, we were going to just go full press and give it absolutely everything, and see if we could score in that period, and see where it took us. And I think we looked at the bench at 20 minutes, and the gaffer was just laughing, saying, "Good luck, lads." So yeah, it was interesting. We got the team sheets, and we were hoping for a little bit of a change team, maybe a little bit of a reserves team, and they had Aguero, Delph, Laporte, John Stones. They had the full works out there, which wasn't great, but we managed to find a way, and that's definitely my favourite goal of my career. And yeah, just to hear that final whistle go, and yes, to know that we somehow beat that side, and knowing how successful they'd been, how good they'd been, it was yeah, a really special feeling.
And do you know if Cook and Guardiola have made up yet?
Probably not, to be honest. It's a bit of a tough one. I think it wasn't. I don't necessarily think they had a specific falling out. I think it was just the whole thing around the red card, and I think because the referee had the yellow card out and changed it, I think he maybe thought that the gaffer had an influence on that. But it was a red card, and rightly so. So yeah, I'm sure they had a chat after the game, and it's one of those things. The gaffer's excellent. The way he handles himself, the way he speaks. I'm sure he had a good chat with Pep, and yeah, it's one of those things. I'm sure after the game there was no love lost.
And can't talk about Wigan without the famous song. Are you a fan of the tune?
Yeah, of course. I can't not be. It's it's been such good fun. I think the way the fans reacted to it all over the world has been excellent. It's one of those things. I think I'll look back in my career and probably won't be able to believe it, but I'm just doing my best to try and keep it going. To be honest, it's I think I've said when the song stops is when I know I'm probably finished, and it's probably time to hang up the boots. So I don't want that day to come at all. It's something that always brings a smile to my face, no matter where I am. It's not great when you hear adaptions at other clubs, especially when I'm on the pitch. So yeah, if I can keep our fans singing it as long as possible, then I'm probably doing something right.
Have you ever met the person who came up with it?
Yeah, I have. Yeah, obviously he's a big Wigan fan. A top guy. I think he'd done a few songs previously of different players, and then for whatever reason, obviously, I think I scored 29 goals that season, so it was obviously coincided with that. But yeah, the Wigan fans just seemed to take to it, and obviously it helped. I was scoring week in, week out, and yeah, it just escalated there with the time, and obviously Euros 2016 as well. But yeah, obviously the chairman at the time, David Sharp, as well, is a good friend of mine. He sorted him out with a nice season ticket after that. So yeah, it was always good fun, and obviously have to give him props for creating the chart.
Touched on your 2016 there as well. If I said the 27th of May 2016, does that ring a bell to you?
Unfortunately not. No, I'm not very good with dates. Go on.
It was your first international goal against Belarus.
So if I was going to guess, I'd have probably got that. Yeah, that was unbelievable. Obviously at Windsor Park as well. It was Yeah, I think the timing of it. Obviously, that was our last home game before we flew over to Paris. So to get that goal, the timing of it, the occasion for completely sold out Winter Park was an unbelievable feeling. I'd obviously made quite a few appearances before that and not managed to get that goal. So yeah, when the ball sort of landed in front of me, I was never going to miss. And yeah, I spoke about the Man City goal being probably my favourite goal. This is a very, very close second. The feeling was unbelievable, and like I said, to hear the Northern Irish fans singing the song in the stadium was incredible. I know a lot of people say it about their club or country having the best fans in the world, but the Northern Irish fans are absolutely unbelievable. I think they take over wherever they go, but in such a good manner as well. I think the amount of people you speak to and they say how impressive and good the fans are, and they genuinely are one of the best. They're incredible.
And that was the last game before the Euros, I believe. Did that sort of like make you feel, yeah, this is it, I'm going now?
Yeah, I think so. So the squad was quite big at that point, so it still hadn't been decided. So yeah, to score that goal was that was my 29th goal of the season. I thought if I don't make the squad now, then I'm never going to make it. And yeah, it was a really important game for myself. So to be able to stand up and score that goal and be a big part in the game was massive for me. Yeah, it was going to Euros and be part of that Northern Irish squad is an unbelievable honour and something I'll never forget.
Where were you when you got the call up for the Euro squad? Do you remember it?
So we actually had like a 10-day camp where I think it took 30 players and obviously had to cut that down to 23. So it was the case of literally we'd trained, we'd had 2 games, and then at the end of the week, it was literally the manager would call you, you'd go and see him, and it was yes or no. It was almost like the X Factor in terms of like you had a meeting with the manager and he told you whether you were going to be in the squad or not. So yeah, I can remember being in my room, knowing I had a little time slot to go and see him, and yeah, it was a nervous walk down, but I would have been really disappointed if I wasn't part of it, and fortunately I was. So yeah, it was good news, and then I sort of remember getting back to my hotel room and to ring the family and tell them that I was going to the Euros, which if you'd asked me sort of 5 or 6 years ago, would have seemed like a ridiculous dream. So to get that nod and know you were going to be on the plane to France was an unbelievable feeling.
And how was the experience of being there? Obviously, there were videos of entire stadiums, not just Northern Irish fans, but everyone singing your song.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. The whole setup and everything was next level. I've never been part of anything like that in my life. We stayed in a really nice sort of like chateau in Pisa. That was the setup was unbelievable. And then yeah, I think like you said about the stadiums, we played Germany. I think it was our second group game. And I remember just warming up, and it was a new stadium, and it had a screen in each corner. So for the four, we were warming up, and the song obviously came on because it turned out to be sort of the anthem of the Euros, and yeah, it was on, the lyrics were on the screen, so it was like I think obviously 4 different languages with the lyrics on, and the whole stadium sort of singing it. I just remember the boys looking at me and laughing about how sort of surreal it was. Yeah, it was such a strange feeling, and then after the Germany game, I think Hummels, the Germany captain, had been asked a few questions, obviously about myself and how they were going to keep me quiet and how they were going to put my fire out or whatever. And after the game, he waited for me in the tunnel. The way the Germans handled themselves was incredible. I think they beat us on the night, but they were so respectful. And then he gave me a shirt, invited me into the German dressing room, and introduced me to the players. And it was probably the maddest thing in the world when I think Schweinsteiger and Muller actually asked me for a photo, which was probably one of the most surreal things that's ever happened. To be honest, it was mad, but like I said, sort of just the way they handled themselves, the humility and everything that they showed throughout the tournament, but especially to myself and the Northern Irish boys was incredible and something that I'll never forget.
Are there any other shirts you got from that sort of time or any point in your career?
Yeah, I've actually got some good ones. I made my Northern Irish debut against Holland before they went to the Euros, actually. I a long time ago, unfortunately. But I managed to get I got Schneider's, Van der Vaart's that night, and then I've managed to get a few along the way. For whatever reason, every time I play against Joe Hart, I score against him. And I remember the last time I played, I scored against him at, I think, West Ham, Burnley, and then I've scored against him twice at West Ham. And I played against him at Burnley, and as we were shaking hands before the game, he was like, "Oh, not you again." And then 20 minutes later, I'd scored, and I just remember celebrating, and he was just looking at me laughing, saying something that I couldn't repeat, but just having a little giggle about how I always managed to score against him. But he's another one, he was amazing with me. He gave me a shirt, and yeah, I can't speak highly enough of him. Ibrahimovic was awesome. We played them in the FA Cup, and he gave me a shirt and signed that for me. So I've been really lucky, to be honest. I've got a good collection.
And then on to Sunderland as well. And then obviously they had the Netflix documentary at the time as well. How was that experience? Because I imagine that's something you've not had to put up with before, like all the cameras on you.
Yeah, that was interesting. To be honest, so I actually missed the first season. So apparently the first season was more invasive and was more sort of in your face all the time. But because that didn't go down very well, I think it was sort of changed in the second season. Whereas, we would be told when we were getting filmed, or we would be asked if, to do an interview. So I didn't actually have much to do with it, just simply because I didn't want to. It wasn't something that appealed for me. I wasn't a massive fan of the first season. I didn't think it was edited very well, and I think speaking to the players, the way that the Jack Rodwell scene was edited and stuff like that, it was basically just all a lie. So it wasn't something that I was massively wanting to be involved in. And then it's the same with the second series. You can put footage and however you want, you can edit it however you want, and I think the way it was portrayed was nonsense. So yeah, it wasn't something that I was massively keen to be involved in, and yeah, I'm glad that I wasn't, to be honest.
And you were there during quite a difficult time for the club. Was that one of the toughest periods of your career?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I didn't enjoy a single minute of it, to be honest. It was one of those things. I was really excited to join. I didn't necessarily want to leave Wigan, but obviously I did. And at the moment I got there, it was an unbelievable club, massive fan base, and we've spoken about the infrastructure at Chesterfield. That Sunderland is incredible. I think it's a top club, and like you said, I just joined a difficult period. We probably just didn't have enough quality in the side, and there was a lot going on behind the scenes, and for whatever reason it just wasn't working. We signed 4 or 5 really good players, not just in that January window, in the next summer as well. And no matter what happened, it seems to be a little bit like Manchester United at the moment. You could sign a brilliant player, and for whatever reason they just didn't get going. And then obviously chop and change your managers didn't happen, didn't work. Sorry. It was just difficult. But there's no surprise like how well they're doing now. It was just always going to be a club that just took a little bit of time.
And MK Dons a big part of your career as well, and coming up against them soon. Are you looking forward to returning, seeing the fan base, seeing the stadium?
Yeah, really looking forward to it. Obviously, three different spells there, a promotion there as well. Their only time in the Championship, and it was a real honour to be part of that. Yeah, it's a club I've always loved. I've spoken about it before. The fans are excellent. Everyone who works at the club, it's been brilliant. The owners as well. Obviously, that's changed now, but yeah, really looking forward to going there. It's always been a stadium that I've seen to score at. My time at Walsall, I just always scored there, and then obviously playing for them as well. I scored so many goals at Stadium MK. So yeah, hopefully I can keep that sort of trend going and try and get some when we go there in a couple of weeks. Yeah, like you said, in terms of going back, seeing the players, seeing the staff, I'm really looking forward to it.
Do you feel they get a sort of an unfair reputation in the media?
Yeah, I think so. It's tough, isn't it? I think whenever something happens with a club like that and with a history, it's always going to be tough. But I think they deserve a lot of credit for what they've done to make the town what it is and make the club what it is. The owner deserves a massive amount of credit for that, and everyone who works at the club. It's been such an effort, and to be where they are now and have sort of a stadium like it is, a club that's really well run, and the way they're playing at the moment, they deserve a lot of credit.
And just a couple more, like, bit more trivial questions. Who was the best player that you've played with or against in your career?
So best player I played against. Good question. Um, Played against. I do know the answers. I think obviously Kevin De Bruyne. I think in that Man City game, De Bruyne was unbelievable. Um, there's been some good ones, and then probably playing with. I think if I think of in terms of the international setup, I think Stephen Davis for obviously Southampton Rangers. He's one of those players you probably wouldn't think was unbelievable, and I think he was part of a really successful Southampton team, but. Was he a 9 or a 10 every week? Probably not, but he was definitely an 8 most games. He was just one of those players that was unbelievable. He didn't give the ball away. I remember going on the camps thinking like, he's a good player, but I'm sure he's not that good. And then within a few days, I just, had so much respect for him. The way he kept the ball, the way he controlled the tempo of the game, dictated the play was incredible. And, he did that for us for years. And then obviously club level, I think obviously Nick Powell, obviously Man United, Crew, Wigan. He's had a lot of clubs, but I think in terms of natural ability and footballing intelligence, he's just on a different level. I think Alex Ferguson's spoken about how impressive he was, and if it wasn't for injuries and a few other things that he would have been, had a career at the top level. So yeah, probably Stephen Davis and Nick Powell probably played with. Obviously I was fortunate to play with Reece James at Wigan for a little bit as well. Obviously Chelsea Reece James. I think from his sort of first week of training, we realised how much quality he had and how impressive he was going to be throughout his career. So, it's no surprise that he's gone on to captain Chelsea, and then playing against again. Obviously John Stones in the City game, he was impressive. I think just the way he handled the ball, and he never ever seemed to be under pressure. He just seemed to always be, comfortable with the ball, and I was pressing him as quick as I could, and he's just so comfortable, so confident in his own ability. He was really impressive, yeah.
You touched on like Reece James as a lone player there. Is that sort of a thing that you can tell, especially at Chesterfield now, like Harry Tyra last season, Mark Ande, players like that who were on loan from higher levels? Can you just see how good they are and are going to be straight away?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it's different at all the different levels. I think going back to Reece James, I think Nathan Byrne the season before, I think he got Player of the Season, and he was our right back. So to be honest, Reece James was sort of brought in as cover, and he was going to be sort of our number 2 right back and play a bit part in the season. Then after a week, we were sort of looking at each other thinking, this guy's not going to be a sub. I can tell you that. He's playing. I don't know where he's playing, but he's 100% playing because he just had too much quality. It was absolutely incredible. So I think to see that caliber of player in the championship at that time was really impressive. And then going back to Chesterfield, yeah, I think Harry Tyra in the National League was a massive coup, and he did really really well for us. He's obviously disappointed not to get him back this season, but he felt like it was time to have a challenge in League One, and that's fair play to him. But obviously Dylan Marcandia as well. He's a top player. I think another one that had loads of options and decided to come to us and trusted us to be part of his development. And yeah, I think it's not doing some goals and assists. He's a real talent. So it's difficult on the loan market. I think there's a lot of sort of scouting and watching clips and researching how they can adapt to the league, to be honest, because there's players at clubs that are higher than you, but are they necessarily better than what you've got? Sometimes probably not. It's the divide in the leagues isn't actually massive, so it's really important you find the right ones. So yeah, I think within a week you can tell how good a player is going to be, but then the really young ones, say like Jensen Weir now, who's only 20 years old, sometimes it does take a little bit of time for them to find their feet, especially when it's their first loan move. But he's another one who's probably came into the club not expecting to play loads and loads of football, and then before you know it, he's played, he's starting in the team, he's played 6 games on the bounce, and is a massive part of what we're trying to do. So yeah, it's just trying to give them that sort of platform and that environment to thrive is a massive thing.
And you spoke earlier on about how 150 of your goals had all look pretty similar to each other. But what is there a standout for like the best quality goal you've scored? Is there one that's like?
Yeah, probably. It's actually quite early on in my career. I think I scored a volley for Warsaw against Scunthorpe. I think it was nominated for Mitre Goal of the Year at the time, something like that. Yeah, it was. I think I'd scored 2 out of 2 previously, and then the manager, who was actually Dean Smith at the time, he just, I guess I'd say he gave me a rest, but I think he dropped me just for the type of game it was, having scored, even though I scored 2 and 2. And then I came on with half an hour to go with a little bit of that youthfulness and a bit of frustration, thinking I probably should have started. And then, yeah, a ball came into the box, a massive diag ball, and I've just volleyed it, hit it first time, and yeah, it's probably the sweetest ball I've ever struck. It just flew off my right foot straight in the top corner. So yeah, you might have to dig that one out of the archives. It might be black and white, but
I'll have a look.
yeah, if you can find that, yeah, my volley against Scunthorpe for Warsaw was is probably technically the best goal I've ever scored, and probably never do that again, to be honest.
And outside of football, do you have any interests or hobbies?
Yeah, well, I've got 4 children, so interests and hobbies sort of go out the window. And their schedules take over. To be honest, yeah, I'm a really hands-on dad. I absolutely love being part of their lives, and if I get a spare minute, it's with them. So yeah, there's no golf for me, nothing like that. Unfortunately, I think if I had 4 hours spare in any day, it'd probably be have a nap. So yeah, all my time is sort of consumed with them. But it's yeah, it's something I absolutely love, and I'm really honoured and privileged to be able to do that.
Well, thank you very much. You've been brilliant. Thank you for
Thanks,
taking
mate.
the
Really
time.
appreciate that.
And
No worries.
congratulations on Player of the Month as well.
Thanks, mate. Appreciate that.
Cheers. Good luck for the rest of the season.